Are you able to preview the... So we can go through all the cards.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we'll fire through those real quick. Depending on how well my qualifying goes, I might even be able to skip, or not well.
Yeah.
Potentially be in sooner than later.
Don't worry.
No, you stupid
Hello everybody and welcome to the latest round in the Virtual World Sportscar Championship for 1981. This is the pretty much halfway point in our season here at Watkins Glen, here tonight on the 1981 version of this great racetrack. You may be wondering, what's the difference to the modern day? Well, the exclusion of that back straight chicane added in the early 90s is the difference for this circuit here. We've of course compiled the 1981, or some of the best circuits in 1981 form, as we see through this, as we have seen through the season so far, and we are here at Watkins Glen for this occasion. 60 laps is the race length, by the way, after our longest race of the season most recently. It was a long time ago now at Le Mans, but a 2.4 hour race was our previous one, and that was, as I say, the longest race of the season. This race is not going to be too far short of that, expecting just short of 2 hours here tonight. However, it's going to be a good one, should be here tonight from Watkins Glen. Very much looking forward to having you company here tonight on the Champion Sim Racing YouTube channel. My name is Ewan O'Leary. I'll be taking you through the commentary here. Ross Smith will pop in as always for a quick chat before we get underway properly here for this race. We're running on board with Eduardo Beninca in qualifying right now. The under 2 litre category have already been out there, and JT Tami was able to take the pole position there in front of Ben Borman by just over 0.2 of a second. We're riding on board though with Beninca in that, or we were, with that Ferrari. My goodness me, that's one of the bigger crashes that we're going to see here tonight. That's Maximilian Petravki going way off and up into the air. He's an AM in the 2 litre category in his Porsche 935, and he's currently 10th and won't be improving on that lap time with the way that it's gone. Here's George Angelidis. We ride aboard with his Ferrari coming in towards the final corners at the moment. Notice these subtle differences between the 1981 version and the one that we see today as we come into the final 2 turns. Maybe not the best place to do it because it's very, very similar. A little bit tighter, I would say, through the penultimate corner. There's a bit more of an open turn 10 these days before you finally get into turn 11. A precarious pit entry back then as it is now. No wall right up next to the racetrack. Here's one of the bigger differences. Downhill coming through the heel of the boot there, trying to manage the getting on the power really through there. You see a lot of the guys just sliding out a little bit through there once they go over the crest there. Then, as I say, into this tighter penultimate chicane, penultimate corner I should say, and then the final corner itself, where, say, there is no wall on the outside, right on the outside there, as there is these days. Chen goes over the line. What's the improvement going to be? It looks like it's 15th place, a 152.2 so far in this session for Chen. On board with Oliver Day through the only chicane that does exist on this racetrack, and that's through turns 2 and 3, if you like, or 3 and 4, take your pick. But yeah, it's just to slow the speeds going over the top of the hill there. But even by the end of the straight you get to here, it's very, very high speed. And look at that wall there on the outside as well, ready to collect you if you get that wrong. And that's going to be a very big crash if indeed you do get that wrong, which we may well see at some point here tonight. As I mentioned, this circuit is the 1981 version, but actually in place since 1971. So by this point it had been in place for 10 years. The only things that are the same, really, well, I suppose to say the only things, there's quite a lot of things that are actually similar to that 1970 layout when it was last used in its previous form. The chute, the outer loop as we call it nowadays, through turn 4 as it is. The first 3 corners as well, albeit without that chicane. Turn 3 is a little bit sharper than it is now, but nevertheless the same. And turn 1, absolutely the same as well, though it wasn't called turn 1 back then. That was actually the final turn. What we now call turn 1 was the final turn in 1970 before you get to the start finish line. Then turn 1 was that sort of gentle right-hander before you plunge up the hill there. Preceding that final section there was a very high speed turn 5, just a slight bend to left before what was called Big Bend, turn 6, which is sort of on the outside of where the final corner now is. Turn 7, which sort of brings you back onto the racetrack the way we know it now. But yeah, lots of changes from then. Of course, preceding that circuit was in place since 1956. Previous to that, there was a street circuit, the original Watkins Glen street circuit, which was, of course, very, very different indeed. The public street course, the first one was over 6.5 miles in length, that's over 10 kilometres. The second, in the mid-50s, was 4.5 miles and over 7 kilometres. So pretty long public road course. Eventually, the Grand Prix circuit was made back in 1956. It has hosted some of the biggest events in world motorsport. Of course, the biggest of them all, Formula One and the United States Grand Prix that came here from 1961 to 1980. So indeed, use this very layout that we're using here tonight for 20 years, 20 editions consecutively until 1980. IndyCar also went here in this layout. They were here in 1981, in fact, on this very year, but also 2 years previous. Then a bit of a break back to 2005 and the modern layout where they used it between 2005 and 10, and then in 16 and 17 as well. But not too often they've been here. More recently, we've seen, obviously, IMSA have been here for ever and ever, it feels. Watkins Glen 6 Hour has been going every year other than COVID since 1984, and every year, including the one in COVID, apart from 3 since 1956. It's one of the most enduring IMSA Sports Car Championship races. The NASCAR Cup Series, of course, as well, every year apart from COVID since 1986. Same for the O'Reilly Series, which has been coming here since 1991 with the exception of COVID, and the trucks 1996 with the exception of COVID, and a few more besides that in more recent years. Of course, they don't use the full Grand Prix layout as we're using here today, but instead the short layout, which is made, I think, very well for sports car racing. Or stock car racing, I should say. Checkered flag is out in this qualifying session, and with that relatively late lap time, Johnny Gutierrez looks like he's taken pole position in the Ford Taxi Mustang, 0.4 of a second in front of Axel Laflamme, who was the best for some time in that session. Boucher de Bruyne and Eduardo Belinca not far off pole when it was Laflamme who was the pole sitter, but Gutierrez looks to have the position and looks to have the pole from here. We'll just hold off on a moment to see whether De Bruyne and Laflamme can do anything on this last lap time, because they are still out there at the moment trying to improve on their lap times, and Laflamme has set a personal best in that first sector, which is exactly a tenth quicker than what Johnny Gutierrez was able to do. De Bruyne abandoned his lap time through the Grand Prix section of this racetrack, and so he is out. Another personal best from Laflamme. We could have some very late drama in this qualifying session here. I know that these are generally longer races. 60 laps should be around 2 hours here tonight. However, qualifying can still be very, very important, and Axel Laflamme would very much like to take pole position here, if possible, in that BMW. If he can, he's got to gain 4 attempts on his big rival here to take that pole position over in the dying moments of this qualifying session. Axel Laflamme coming up towards the line. Is it enough? It's a purple final sector, and therefore improvements in all 3, but not quite an improvement in overall lap time. He stays a tenth and a half behind. John Huyn crosses the line as the first of the AMs, still in 9th place. Maximilian Petravki, who had trouble early on in the session, is still second in the AMs and ends the session there. So that is qualifying, and a very dramatic finish to it as well. But Johnny Gutierrez has taken the pole position tonight. Let's have a look through that starting grid then, with that 2-litre qualifying complete. Gutierrez and Laflamme on the front row, so close in qualifying between those two. And Boucher de Bruyne and Eduardo Belinca, who looked like they were close at times there, will share row 2. Daniel Hurlock and Oliver Day will be then on row 3 in front of Gilles Lalonde, who's the next of the 2-litre pro guys. Then it's the under 2-litre pole sitter JT Tami, who's in 8th. John Huyn, who's the AM pole sitter for 2-litre cars, in 9th place ahead of Ben Borman, who is next. Also an under 2-litre driver. Robin Moling and Maximilian Petravki are then on the 6th row. Brian Hall is 13th in front of Alan Smith. They're on row 7. That's the 2-litre versus an under 2-litre. Then Ross Smith in the 2-litre AM category, 15th ahead of Ethan Funk, who's in the under 2-litre pro category in 16th. Jerry Chen and George Angelidis will be in the same class, sharing row 9 in front of Castro and Vinicius Gonçalves, who rounds out the field. Castro, by the way, the only under 2-litre driver in the AM class here today. I'd say that Ross Smith is alongside me at this point, just for our warm-up before he goes off to race. Good to have you alongside me, Ross. Just a quick word on that qualifying session. First of all, 15th place start for you tonight. How did that go?
It went pretty awfully. Unfortunately, there was a massive stutter coming out of the boot, and that kind of threw out a really good time. I would have been right up there with John, which I really needed to be. And so now I've got some work to do, but like you said, it's a long race, so we've got plenty of time to catch up. So we're hopeful. Vinicius back there with me, and we'll get up through there. I think there's going to be a lot of chaos up through the field, so. Yeah, we're not terribly worried. We just got to stay focused.
Indeed, we'll get more from Ross in a moment, but let's just go through some of the other bits and bobs before this start of the race. First of all, the calendar, which we are now at Watkins Glen, of course, so we're roughly halfway, 60 laps here tonight. The tied longest race of the season. Last time out at Le Mans in April, and next time out at Spa. That will be next on the list. Road America will be the very week after that, before a race in September at Silverstone. A double header at the Nürburgring and Pegusa will be in October, followed by a 90-minute race the only race in November at Daytona. Second visit there this season. And Mosport and Brands Hatch as a double header finale in December. Still to look forward to before this season is over. Here is the track that we're using here today. The slight changes to the modern day racetrack. This is the 1975 to 83 layout that has that little chicane under the S's there. There's a very fast chicane, doesn't do too much to slow them down. By the time they're at the loop, of course, they're at absolute maximum speed because there is no back straight chicane on this layout back in 1981. That was added in the early 90s after a sad accident in a Cup Series race. So that is the 1981 layout here from Watkins Glen here today. And what does that mean for the keys to the race here today? Well, it's going to be a long one and a hot one at Watkins Glen. The fact that this is always taking place in the summer means that you have to keep a very close eye on the temperatures. The current temperature, I can tell you, is only 34 degrees Celsius, which is palatable, but it could get worse. Mind the S's chicane, it's not doing much to slow you down. I must admit, it's a very, very fast and tricky chicane. And of course, as always, tricky mixed class conditions here in this series with the under 2 litre and the 2 litre entries in the class. Expecting fuel at 2 times, 3 pit stops for the 120 litres. So that's what we're expecting to see over the 60 laps. We'll keep an eye on whether that comes true or not here today with how many pit stops people are making. In terms of the standings in the 2 litre pro category, as it were, it is Nicholas Kirsten who's leading the way currently, having had a very good run in the last few weeks. 3 wins in a row that finally came to an end at Le Mans last time out. Daniel Hurlock in second place, only 5 points behind, and Eduardo Benker only a further point behind him. Johnny Gutierrez, who's just taken the pole there, will start the race in 4th in the points, ahead of Alessandro Smeraldi, Wouter de Bruyn and Magnus Dahlgren. They're all very close in, and Oliver Day in 8th is only 20 points back. Timon Subic, Bradley Sellers round out the top 10. The Ferrari team on the right hand side, you can see leading the grid of leading the team, Smeraldi and Baninka, the best team so far, 12 points ahead of Suvic and Dahlgren, the next best team. In the AM class, the 2 litre AM class, we just heard Ross talking about qualifying there, needs to be closer to John Uyen. That's because they're only separated by 2 points in this championship. Jerry Chen's not too far away either, back in 5 points back in 3rd. George Angelidis only 11 back in 4th, and Vinicius Gonçalves, who's also here today, rounds out the top 5. Maximilian Petrovsky, I think, is the only other one here, certainly of the big contenders. 7th place, 26 points back, starting from just outside the top 10 today. And Uyen and Angelidis are leading in the teams ahead of Ross Smith and Vinicius Gonçalves, who are in 2nd place there for the teams, 22 points back. In the under 2 litre category, it is JT Tarmy who's taken pole tonight, but he's also the championship leader, 7 points in front of Ethan Funk and Matt Wright, who I don't believe are here today, so there could be a big chance to gain some points for him. Alan Smith is here and starts the day 10 points back ahead of Becky Ely-Clark, and then a bit of a gap back to Ben Borman, who's just qualified in 2nd place in this race here today. I think that's it for those who are here today on the left hand side. Funk and Tarmy have given their 1 and 2 in the championship, are unsurprisingly leading the under 2 litre standings by a very long way. And in the under 2 litre AM standings, it is John Mayer and Christian Doga, we could say, who are leading the way together, 58 points each to their name. Matthew Overton, 2 points back only. It's a 3-horse race and a very exciting one at that. Carl Stroll, who is here today as well, is 20 points further back. Overton and Mayer are leading the points in the teams by some way, as you would expect in the Lotus Esprit S1. There are the standings here going into tonight, and very much looking forward to seeing how this race pans out. Ross, just tell us a little bit about what you're expecting here as far as the keys to the race are concerned. We've just had a look at them, but it's expected to be a relatively long race, a relatively hot race, but can you tell us about what would be a concern? What temperature would start to cause a concern, and how will the cars react to the high temperatures that we could see in the blazing summer heat tonight?
Well, thanks for having me, by the way, and thanks for being here. I know that there's a bit of shuffling coming into this race, but to answer your question, it's right in that spot where it's a little bit warmer than we'd probably want it to be, but certainly nothing that's going to be out of hand. You know, we've been looking at where we are with the radiator tape and blanking on the brake ducts, and everything seems to be in a good zone right now for our strategy. So we're not too worried, but there are certainly other drivers out there pushing the limits, and they might run into some issues. Like you said, it's a longer race. It's going to be coming up on around 2 hours, about maybe a little bit less, depending on how quickly the leaders are able to get around this thing. But it's going to be warm. We just got to keep an eye on things, make sure we address anything that comes up just in case, and then just try and stay out of trouble.
I know you've only got a few minutes, but I want to talk a little bit more about strategy, because this is a 60-lap race, as we saw through the calendar. That's the only race where it's to a laps. Obviously, we've got distance races rather than time races, but we're coming off a 2.4-hour race, and it's been quite a while since we had a distant race. Actually, so far the only distance race was on the 14th of February rather. November's not been yet. February, which is 5 months ago now. How different is it, if you like, preparing for a race strategy-wise, when you know that this race is going to be 60 laps or less if you get lapped, rather than 2.4 hours like we had last time, or 2 hours or 90 minutes like we've had so far this season?
It definitely changes things up, because it is sort of in that middle zone from the longest races we've had and some of the other ones we've had, which have just been a wee bit shorter. So the strategy is quite a bit tighter. I think that we might see some drivers going for a two-stop, but anything can happen really in this one. And I think one of the biggest challenges on this track in particular is because of the way it is. You know, you've got the longer sweeping corners. We're going to have a situation where the under twos are going to be right there alongside the 2-liter cars, just all over the place, tripping over each other as they're going through braking zones and whatnot. So I think that's going to be the biggest highlight as we kind of kick things off, and then diverging strategies are going to be kind of where things really start to shine and show interest in the way that endurance really does its thing.
And one final thing before I let you go for the race, obviously, I want to chat about that. The chicane at the bottom of the hill there before the S's. It's not something that many people maybe will even remember was a thing, because it's such a nice, these days, flowing S's section up the hill there. But what is that chicane like to drive there?
It always makes you kind of clench and wonder if it's going to toss you into the infield, or if it's going to be kind and let you keep on with your race. So I'm sure it's going to grab at least somebody tonight, and I'm really hoping it's not me. That's all I can say about that.
Good luck, Ross, for the race. We'll obviously be looking out for you out there tonight. Thanks for chatting to us before the race, and hopefully we'll be chatting to you afterwards as well.
I'd love that. Thanks, Ewan, and take care.
Thanks so much. Ross Smith chatting to us before we get this race underway here from Watkins Glen tonight in the Virtual World Sportscar Championship 1981. Of course, Group 5 cars, the end of an era as it was back in the early 80s, before the Group C era really took off in 1982. And if you remember back to last year, I'm talking about our calendar years here, when we were running the 2025 Modern Series, we were also running the Group C era of cars as well. And if you may remember, the race pace was way, way slower than what we saw in the qualifying pace. It was a real battle of sort of fuel saving, really, and managing tyres and managing everything throughout the races last season. Well, this season it has been so far a little bit different, but as we've just been talking about with Ross there, 60 laps means that it's not actually tied to a distance at all, though this is a number of laps, a set number of laps, unlike some of the other timed races that we've seen so far this season, for all but one of them in fact. But this is a very round number that maybe is easier to strategise. We saw at the start of the day 3 stops potentially going to be made. That would be 15 lap stints always round, and that would be just less than half an hour per stint, which, based on some of the conversations that I've had with Ross so far pre-race, might be a little bit on the short end. Maybe we might see some people trying to go for the 2-stop and trying to get to 20 laps into this race. Now, that would be just short of 40 minutes, you'd expect, and we would be gobsmacked if anyone could go 30 laps and therefore make it a 1-stop race here today. But who knows? Who knows? We'll wait and find out here tonight. The drivers are going to get themselves onto the grid, and then they'll be on their way for a formation lap around this 5.5 kilometre, 3.5 mile racetrack. The 1981 version of it, which was, of course, not containing the backstraight chicane, but a small S's chicane before the before turn 3 on this racetrack, and on the opening lap. That could be very, very interesting indeed. A good evening to everyone watching on Champion Sim Racing here this evening. Good to have you with us, and do not be scared to chat along with me here. I am on my own. So length around here, just about what are we talking in terms of miles? Just under 200 miles round here, over 300 kilometres though. So longer than a sort of F1 distance, if you like, what we used to see around here at Watkins Glen. As the United States Grand Prix used to be here back in the 1980s. Well, for longer than that indeed, or before the 1980s, I should say. The last race here won by Alan Jones, the Australian, after 59 laps of racing completed in just over an hour and a half. Well, we're going to be going slightly longer than that, and I'd imagine in terms of time we'll be going slightly longer than that as well. Hopefully, though, we'll get more drivers to the finish than who managed it on that particular occasion, because only 13 crossed the line, 11 of them classified. So there you go. That's a different time in the Formula One world, that's for sure. But down the back straight they come. We follow George Angelidis. Hopefully, the cameras will throw us up to the top, ready for the start. Do beware, in case you get a little bit frustrated with the camera work, that these are set to auto cams at the moment. But it's a very good bit of software actually, so big thanks to the guys at FCSGS for this. Still getting the broadcast on, even though I can't broadcast myself. I can commentate, and they've stuck the broadcast cameras on for me. And yeah, do be or don't be frustrated with the auto cams. It should be pretty good. I remember using these last season at a historic race, and they were pretty entertaining, pretty good at picking up the battles, and I'm confident it will do the same as well. But big thanks to everyone behind the scenes at SGS, of course, for their hard work, not only with the cars, the tracks, and everything that drivers are using, but also what we use here in the broadcasts as well. The cameras that you're about to see here tonight, the cards that you've already seen there to really preview the races for you, and with the calendar and the keys to the race, that are often very helpful for us in terms of actually very accurate in terms of what we actually need to look at and look out for here in this race today, and everything else as well. So we'll keep an eye on who's where as far as standings are concerned. It's going to be pretty exciting to see how this season ends out, because although we're barely halfway through here and we've got a real and packed final 4 months of this schedule, it's still pretty close in the championship, and it's going to remain so, I would imagine, as well, as we're about to get these Group 5 cars underway again here at Watkins Glen tonight in the Virtual World Sports Car Championship 1981. We're on board with Johnny Gutierrez, who's very soon going to be in control of this field and get set for 60 laps of racing up in the northeast of the US. Into the final turn, down to second. Gutierrez down to first indeed to get the proper launch out of the final turn and up to the green flag. He waits a little bit, he waits a bit longer, holding them at 90 k's before they get to the start finish line, and then as he hits the start finish line he goes, as we have 60 laps on the board for tonight's race here from Watkins Glen in 1981. This is the slow start at the back of the field as they've all slowed down into the final turn, of course, to try and get things underway. And hopefully, they just about avoid a bit of contact there as they all have to stamp on the brakes again coming out of the final corner. It's a confusing start, but look at some of the starts that have been made. That's George Angelidis, I think, who's flying up the field. He's up to 12th place already, by the way. He's in the 2 litre AM category, and he's already third in that class. Trouble already for Alan Smith, and it has come through the chicane there. Or is it just before? Excuse me. It's just before the S's chicane, which you can see there. There's the anti-cuts and the big curbs. We'll hopefully get it to show us a replay in just a moment. But Alan Smith, unfortunately, with trouble there, coming up the hill through turn 2, it seemed. It's always a narrowing. It's always a dangerous moment. And it has provided that once again here today from Watkins Glen. On board with Ben Borman as we come through the first lap of this race. Just side by side up in front of us here in the other categories, but this is the fight for the lead in the under 2 category class at large here. Tommy just in front and Ben Borman in behind in the Lotus Esprit, looking for a pass down the inside here, just backs out of it, brakes early, and has to fall in behind coming through the final part of the Grand Prix section. Before we get to the final part of the lap, let's have a look at a replay here. I don't know if it's going to show us the incident for Smith that we're looking for here. It is going to show us a pass though down the inside from Brian Hall, I think that is, on Jerry Chen, or the other way round. It's coming down the hill towards turn 8, the heel of the boot through there, as Gutierrez completes the first lap with the fastest lap of the race so far, perhaps unsurprisingly. And down the inside on JT Tommy goes, that's Moling on Ben Borman rather. And Tommy able to keep the lead. And now he's got a bit of a buffer with his main rival overtaken there, coming down in towards the 90 at turn 1. As our first look at the S's throughout the race, a really exciting section of corners as Axel Laflamme slow on the back straight. Very slow indeed, and even Daniel Hurlock gets through. I wonder whether this is what the replay is of. A little bit wide into the wall. Not sure if that is actually Laflamme or not, but it's a little bit wide into the S's. Laflamme up in front seemed to have also gone off, but Hurlock had actually been in the wall himself just prior to that, which is pretty unusual, pretty amazing. Down the inside though, straight back through again, Laflamme into 4th position, into the toe of the boot. So not waiting around here, not messing around, getting straight back up the order again here is Axel Laflamme into 4th position and consolidates that on the way down the hill. Now we'll have to pick himself up a little bit here and try and catch those who he was with earlier on, of course. Those guys at the front that he'll absolutely be competing with for this, who hope anyway, for this race victory here today. A little bit further back in the pack, there's Maximilian Petrovsky, leader of the 2 litre AM class here so far, up ahead of John Uyen, the pole sitter in that category. So a massive crash for him in qualifying just as we came to air here. Petrovsky was able to get a decent lap in, and then he was able to make a very solid start. Also get past John Uyen as well for 8th position overall, but more importantly, 1st in class. There's Carl Stroh. He started at the back of the field here today. He's in the under 2 litre AM category on his own today. But moving forward and looking for a good overall finish. 17th place in front of Gonçalves there. As we have a look back at the chicane again. Well, the famous Group 5 liveries, this one. And again, is that Laflamme again? No, that was Hurlock again, sorry. So Hurlock went a bit wide through the S's that time around. That's Gilles Lalonde in the Ford Zaxpeed there, looking absolutely fantastic, by the way. Passing Dan Hurlock down the straight there. So Hurlock was in that position last time. He was the one making the pass. This time it's Lalonde making the pass on him. 3 laps complete at the end of this one. Another fastest last time round from Gutierrez, by the way, a 1:51.2. He was only half a tenth quicker than Eduardo Beninca though in the Ferrari, so those two still very evenly matched. But already we're not that far away from qualifying speed, to be honest, which is just amazing. These guys are going to keep that up for nearly 2 hours here. It's going to be a furiously contested race here today, as these VWSC races always are. JT Tarmi up into 11th in front of Ben Borman here. Back in front, I should really be saying. Now, that's a late dive into the penultimate corner there. Trying to make a pass, bit of side by side. Right round the outside. This is a active little battle between these two. And I'm trying to find out who it's between, but yeah, no, impressive battle between those two. And Laflamme's had trouble, and straight vaulting over the top of him goes Gilles Lalonde. What an extraordinary moment. It's Laflamme off again for the second time in 3 laps through that chicane. Even Petrovsky as an AM driver has gone past him now. Robin Marling will be coming up very soon. There he goes. John Uyen will be closing before the outer loop, but won't get there quite in time. Goodness me. Lalonde was up into the air there, and Axel Laflamme having more trouble here in this race. It's been a disastrous start for Laflamme. Let's see the side-by-side just up in front here. I think this is Herlock and Lalonde again. And this is Lalonde going straight on down the chute. Oh, and maybe into the wall on the outside. Lalonde is down to 10th place, so it's all happening here. He's gone up into the air through the S's, and now he's gone straight on going into the chute. Now Marling's had trouble. He's let Laflamme past him. Now John Uyen gets past him as well. All sorts kicking off here on lap 5 of this race. Goodness me, what a moment, what a moment here on lap 5. Robin Marling the one going backwards most recently, but Gilles Lalonde straight on through the outer loop there. Also going up into the air as he tried to get past Axel Laflamme, having more trouble through the S's chicane that time round. Goodness me. And there's a stopper here as well. Is that somebody on the lead? It is Lalonde, who's clearly got damage from that 2 bits of contact, and quite cleverly come into the pit lane to do some repairs. That's certainly going to stop a 3-stop race. Certainly going to force, I should say, a 3-stop race from him today. Perhaps no surprise. Look at that. I went on board with John Uyen there just in time to see the bounce over the chicane there. It's quite an extraordinary set of corners, and I think every driver, having driven this layout this week in practice and in the weeks gone past indeed to prepare for this, will be very pleased that the real world Watkins Glen doesn't use this chicane anymore at the bottom of the S's. It's quite a thing. Whoa, Marling sliding again, coming into the Grand Prix section. That's just up ahead of him there. That's a pass from Laflamme. Trying to get down the inside of Petrovsky, who's leaving him so much room that he almost went off there, coming into the toe of the boot. But they get away with it. Or Petrovsky, more accurately, gets away with it. And again, he keeps the 2-litre AM lead. John Uyen second in that class at the moment. Then Jerry Chen, Brian Hall, George Angelides, Vinicius Gonçalves, and Ross Smith is a DNF. Now, are we going to find out quite why here, I wonder? There's contact. A spin for one of the Porsches. That's not Ross. He's in a BMW. Spin for one of the Porsches there coming down the hill as we go back to the back of the pack here. It's very busy back here. On board with Alan Smith, who's trying to get past Carl Struhl. Up in front as well is Vinicius Gonçalves and Ethan Funk, who I incorrectly said wasn't here today. He is, but just qualified a long way down. Has to regain some of these positions. Smith looking for an exit. Can't quite get it on Gonçalves here, who of course is left alone here with his teammate Ross Smith out of the race already, which is such a shame. Pulls over to the side there, but Gonçalves. I'm liking the tic-tac livery, by the way. Alan Smith comes down the outside and through into 16th position. Very nicely indeed. Battle for 5th place between Oliver Day and Axel Laflamme, by the way. Oliver Day holding on to that at the moment as we get an onboard shot there of the yeses chicane. Alan Smith getting all out of shape, as they do every single lap through there. Now, this is somebody, is it with Herlock maybe? I don't think so. I don't think Herlock has anyone behind him directly, but a nice pass down the inside. Very nice pass. Again, not sure who that was on who, but a very nice pass down the inside, coming in towards turn 6 there, the chute. On board with Jerry Chen. He's obviously been promoted to a higher position in this championship with the retirement of Ross Smith here today. Johnny in leading will be further out front in this championship as things currently stand. Through the final couple of corners, let's see another replay here. Just a very good exit coming out of the toe of the boot there before you get down to the heel. Nice pass down the inside. Audio pass indeed down the inside there. Ross Smith is back again. He might have had a disconnection trouble then, because Ross Smith is back and he's on a mission. Look at that, making a pass there. Oh, and Lalonde is backwards again. He's repaired his car and now he's back in the wall, and somebody very nearly comes through and hits him. This is a very busy part of the racetrack to be spun round. He's got to be very careful that he doesn't get beached and he doesn't get into anybody else. You see him there trying to make sure he doesn't get beached. Oh dear, he might have to reverse again. This is really worrying now. Oh, careful. He's got it done. Well done, Lalonde, because that could have been absolutely disastrous. There's Lalonde already backwards. It's the three Porsches we saw come straight past. It was Jerry Chen, Maximilian Petrovsky and Brian Hall, by the way, who all came past there. Oh, and not in that order indeed, because there was a pass there for Petrovsky on Hall in towards the loop. So that's what that replay was of there. Axel Laflamme closing on Dan Herlock. That pass we saw not so long ago was Molin getting past Day, I think, Oliver Day. We saw on a replay kind of a yellowy car being passed. It wasn't Herlock, although his livery looks very similar. With those cars, here comes Laflamme down the inside. A nice pass. Pretty comfortable into the 90. But a very nice pass indeed made by Axel Laflamme on Dan Herlock. Some sliding, just getting on the power there, coming out of the Essex chicane. The slipstream Herlock not going to be able to get anywhere close this time, and just lifts off a little bit towards the end of the back straight there. First indeed, just grabbing first, coming through the chute at turn 6. And if you're grabbing it through there, you're going to be grabbing it a lot, but you can get almost to 140 k's an hour with first gear, which I guess is a bit helpful. Here's Petrovsky catching back up to Jerry Chen. Petrovsky on a bit of a recovery drive at the moment, and had a bit of success with it, really. The cars in front of them is Ross Smith, so not everybody for position up here, but Bechi Tami is also up ahead of them here. Don't forget Chen and Petrovsky are in Ross Smith's class, so he's not going to be that eager to let them past at the moment. over the start-finish line for the start of lap number 10 here. As we go on board with Johnny Gutierrez, the race leader since the very start here, when he took pole position. And he's dominated ever since, really, here tonight. Nearly 4 seconds his gap over Eduardo Benka, and that's been very slowly and painstakingly eked out. Last time Benka gained half a tenth, but that's the sort of time gains that the two of them have been making on each other. Very, very minimal indeed. Good evening to everybody in the chat watching on. Mr. Reese as normal, everybody else. For the latest round of the Virtual World Sports Car Championship 1981. The Group 5 era coming to an end in this year. You can, as you see there, follow us on socials, Virtual World Sports Car Championship, also a modern series that we organise as well. cmsracing.com. Next round of the modern series, by the way, will be taking place. We had one last weekend at Sao Paulo. We're next in action on the 8th of August, so in 2 weeks' time at Road America, also for 60 laps. In the modern series, we've already had our race at Watkins Glen, which was 60 laps in length on the 11th of July. Let's see this pass down the inside. Porsche on Porsche. This is Petrovsky and Chen again. Maximilian Petrovsky getting himself past Jerry Chen there, and Oliver Day looking to the inside of Robin Moling there. Once again, these two fighting it out. Moling got past Day earlier. He's now looking to return the favour here. Chen again trying to hold on to Petrovsky really, and we'll see whether he can actually hold on to the coattails, because Petrovsky is going to try and run first JT Target I suppose, but in his class John Uyen, who's first in class at the moment. If you can stay with him here, Chen, then it'll be a very successful day, I think. Still 50 laps to go though, still a very long time remaining in this race. And there indeed, officially 50 laps to go. Track temperature, by the way, 33 degrees Celsius. We're not expecting any rain today. Ambient temperature just 27 degrees. As I mentioned previously, because this is a summer race, and even the modern and the historics often runs in both. Often in July, as both have been this year as well. It's very, very hot sometimes. And I've raced on another simulator that was over 50 degrees track temperature, getting towards 60 at the 6 hours of Watkins Glen. That was back in the days of GTEs and so on. No such concerns this time round though for these guys in 1981, as we have a look at a replay again here. This is Chen and Petrovsky again, and Petrovsky slides. Whoa, good catch for the penultimate turn, and again he gets it wrong out of the final turn, and he does hit the pit wall and the outside wall as well. Petrovsky has been fast but also prone to mistakes here so far. He loses positions again there, and he's back down to 12th behind Chen again. Axel Laflan's back behind Moling and Oliver Day as well again. There's a couple of drivers who've had, or have, I should say, good speed, but not the consistency to quite go with it. And over that little crest there that you don't see these days at the heel of the boot. Flam surely is going to be able to get himself through fairly quickly, to be honest. There's Gutierrez again. Just a brief look at him. 6 seconds in the lead now as we go back again. I think this is the fan making up a place here. Just coming out of the final corner. He's able to straight past Oliver Day in the Ford Zaxby Mustang. There's 4 of those in the top 7, by the way. Robin Moling, Wouter de Bruin and Johnny Gutierrez also using that car. Gotta say, you can see why. It's a Lancia of JT Tarmy. No longer the leader though in the under 2 litre category. Ben Boorman now at the head of that class. Apologies for missing that. Might have happened a couple of laps ago now. I can see Jerry Chen right behind him as well. He'll be no doubt putting some pressure on. They're going to put some pressure on. Here's Saxola Flam again. Looking to make some moves again because he's been up and down a bit today. Clearly has the speed, but the consistency has troubled him so far. Through the penultimate turn, bit of a slide, but gathers it well. Feels slightly wider, that part of the circuit, in this model than the modern version. The run to the line fairly, just a little bit shorter. Here's a replay. There's a yellow flag in sector 3 at the moment, and I wonder whether this is reasoning. The Porsches perhaps going off into the end of the boots. We saw this car do something very similar earlier. Round down the bottom of the hill there. It's Maximilian Petrafsky again, who's now behind Brian Hall as well. So again, quick but not consistent at the moment, Maximilian Petrafsky. He's got to try and sort that out and try and get the right balance between those two things right now, because he's so far finding it pretty tricky. Well, it's been a great drive so far from Johnny Gutierrez. About to go on to lap 15 at the end of that lap. Sorry, the one after that lap. It will be officially a quarter of this race and maybe a stopping point as Brian Hall gets a pretty bad run onto the back straight. And this is why. Well, Petrafsky's just pushing very hard. Oh, look at him through there. He's absolutely on the limit. Unbelievable. He's pushing hard tonight, is Maximilian Petrafsky, that is for sure. And why not as well? Here's Robin Moling, still inside the top 5. We'll do a little bit of championship maths a little bit later on, by the way, here tonight, before we end the stream. Get some sort of championship standings. But for the moment, the race has just spread out a little bit just before we get to those first pit stops of the day. You generally do see this. All 20 though that started here tonight are still in the race, which is fantastic to see. I'll try and get as many to the end of the race as possible. Bobby Juzelond, who's been one of those putting that record slightly at risk so far. He's had a long repair. He was backwards through here. He was up in the air through here after this full of. And just as I say that, commentator's curse, Maximilian Petrovsky has called it a day. Quick so far. That's Petrovsky. I'm afraid he has not had the consistency. He's not been able to keep it out of the walls and so on, and he's retired from this race. Ross Smith will be pretty pleased about that, to be honest with you. He'll be moving on up. Or at least a class position that'll be for him. He has now caught Robin Morning, really. He's got pretty close anyway, as we're at the end of this lap going to get to 1/4 distance exactly. Will anybody be forced to come in at that stage of the race? It would be a little bit on the early side, but a bit of cockpit action as well, right from the driver's eye. George Angelidis, still behind Brian Hall here. See over the chicane there. It's very technical through there. Makes the S's a lot more interesting, I've got to say. And you could also say quite a lot more dangerous, really. We're into the loop. And back to the battle for fifth, because La Flamme is pretty much here now. We'll hopefully catch that battle in a sec before this replay. Looks a bit like Ross Smith's car. Ooh, catching the grass on the way in and into the wall pretty hard there. I'm afraid he might well be in for some damage repairs in the next few moments. So La Flamme has decided not to make the pass on the track there on Robbie Molling and instead come into the pit lane. So he's splitting this race into quarters and making 3 stops over the course of the day. These guys get past. He's still stopped there at the moment. As Angelidis gets hit there. George Angelidis hit by Cyril Lalonde, that is, who was trying to get past coming into the final corner there. Ross Smith able to unlap himself again. Lalonde a bit overzealous, you'd say, trying to get past Angelidis, who may not well be best pleased about that. Smith's even going to look to get past Brian Hall actually as well. As we see leaders in now. Johnny Gutierrez is after 17 laps. Eduardo Beninca as well. Wouter de Bruin. They're not quite able to make the 20 lap mark. Now, as expected, 3 pit stops today. As we were shown at the start of the day. Van Herlock able to carry on. And he gets past the others as well, which is interesting. La Flamme's still in the box after nearly 2 minutes, by the way. Molling carries on too. We follow this incredibly interesting battle here in the midfield. Oliver Day also gets out ahead of them. John Huyen is not stopping this time round. See a replay. See that again here for Angelidis. I think he was getting past Hall. It's Ross Smith in the multicoloured car just in front, getting past everybody. Although I'm trying to do the same, but yeah, Angelidis does indeed get through. And Smith joins in now as well. Such a busy part of this field. So the flat back out, is he back? Yeah, back out there again after 2 minutes 21 in the pit box. It's very, very costly, of course, these pit stops, very, very costly. So there may well be encouragement to some of those who stayed out until this point to try and make it on just 2 stops rather than 3. Whoa! That's a big moment for Alan Smith. Goodness me, he gets away with it somehow by cutting through that S's chicane. Maximilian Petrovsky has messaged us. He says, that's a new one. The crew chief told me I had a brake failure. That is a new one. I mean, could you feel? I've got follow-up questions to ask. Could you feel the brake failure? Could you feel the brakes going at all? That is very unusual. Something that absolutely could be changed. I mean, maybe with a bit of a longer stop, but even so. All the others are in, by the way, this time round after 18 laps, so it doesn't seem that my dreams of seeing someone go for a 2-stop. I always like to see somebody do something different. I think those are going to go unfounded here today. Borman's going to carry on, so is JT Tarmy. So maybe, I mean, they're the under 2 litre leaders, really. Maybe that's a insight. See how it all shakes out when the stops have fully happened, and I'll do a run through at that stage, because at the moment there's guys everywhere. There are the leaders. Ben Borman at the front now by 1.5 seconds. JT Tarmy, the one right behind. George Angelidis, Brian Hall are continuing their fight, well, getting past the leaders. Funk and Gonsalves also, well, certainly Funk has carried on. I'll see one more driver carrying on here as well in just a moment. In the meantime, we'll keep an eye on all these pit stops happening, and I was going to have a chat with Maximilian Petrovsky, who put himself in the waiting room very, very briefly, and then left. So hopefully we can chat to Maximilian in a second. But either way, on board with Brian Hall, right in behind Angelidis here. The battle for the lead in the 2 litre round class for now, while the pit stops are unfolding. Tarmy gets past Ben Borman, who stops this time round. So very interesting. The under 2 litre leader is going on to a 20th lap. And don't forget, 20 laps here. You say, well, there's 61 laps at the top there. Well, yes, but one of those laps was a formation lap, really. Which means that maybe 21 laps are on the cards in a future pit stop. This is Angelidis coming in, but Brian Hall carrying on. Here's another driver continuing for another lap. Let's just see this replay before we bring in Petrovsky. Ross Smith having more trouble. Is that? Yeah, it's a replay of the replay, I think. That may well happen on a couple of occasions. Let's bring in Petrovsky, shall we, and have a bit of a chat about how the race has gone. Maximilian, welcome in. Good to have you with us, although a shame not to see you still out there on the racetrack. Just tell us a little bit about a bit more about that brake failure which you were told about that has unfortunately ended your race tonight.
Well, good evening, first of all. As it turns out, during qualifying, I had the brake blanking all the way closed, which means that there was minimal airflow to the brakes, just to have a bit more straight line speed. And I forgot to open those, so the brakes overheated and then they exploded, which made me spin on in one of the braking zones, unfortunately, and that ended my race.
Would you say that it was sort of instant when you sort of felt that going on, or could you feel that gradually sort of getting worse over the course of the race there?
It was okay, and then it wasn't anymore. So I wouldn't say it was gradual. It was very sudden. The brakes were getting a bit weaker because when brakes overheat, they do tend to not brake as well. But I thought that was mainly down to tire wear and not down to the brakes. So when suddenly one of the brake discs failed, then it just spun me around, and so I decided, okay, I'll slowly drive into the pits and then retire.
I mean, how was it up until that point here? You seem to be one of the faster drivers, actually, although there was a couple of mistakes that sort of had you on a bit of a snakes and ladders scenario. You were moving up a few places and then back down again. How were you finding the race up until that point?
The Porsche is very fun to drive around here. It was also very fast. I was well on pace to be P1, I think, but unfortunately I made a few mistakes, and I had an incident with Axel, which I won't comment on more specifically what happened there, but it was an unfortunate incident, and a few other incidents also that meant that I was kind of destroying my own ability to keep up with the rest of the Amfield.
I mean, what do you make of the scenario that we see now on our screens? We've just seen four drivers make it to the end of lap 20 in the first stint of this race. Maybe pointing the fact that they might do a two-stop race here today. What are your thoughts on strategy today, and what would you say in terms of someone's attempting to do a two-stop race? How possible do you think it is to get sort of 20, 21 laps out of a stint that you might need to do a two-stop versus a three-stop, which most of the field seem to have gone with so far?
I believe so. I myself, I was on a a three-stop strategy. But the last stop would be quite a bit shorter than the other two. But it seems to me that Brian Hall is able to actually make it on a three-stop, which is on a two-stop. It's quite surprising for the Porsche. The problem that I saw on the track, at least, was that Brian seems to be driving at quite a reduced pace compared to our Porsches, specifically on the straight. So how that actually turns out, how much he has to sacrifice for making the two-stop, remains to be seen, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for coming to chat to us, Maximilian. A shame to see you at race end in that way, but as I say, thanks very much for joining us, and hopefully we'll see you again very soon at one of the races coming up.
Yep, thank you very much.
Thanks
have
very
a good race, everyone.
Cheers, thanks very much. That is Maximilian Petrovsky, who finishes this race early tonight, DNF with a brake failure. Brakes overheating here in the early stages of tonight's race at Watkins Glen. Well, the pit stops are pretty much complete now, as Oliver Day gets himself past Ben Boorman there, who's coming out of the pit lane. My goodness, right round the outside, Boorman will make his way back into 7th again. That's a fantastic bit of defending there. Sure he was intending to do that, maybe he was, but that was quite something around the outside there, getting up into 7th place. Nevertheless, that was very impressive from Boorman. There's Brian Hall coming out of the pit lane. We were just spoken to Petrovsky about that in the Porsche, making this potentially a two-stop race. But let's run through the order now that we've had the stops. Eduardo Benenka's leading the way by nearly 14 seconds, and that suggests a short stop from him, because Johnny Gutierrez is still second and still in front of Valtteri de Bruyn by nearly 6 seconds in turn. Daniel Hurlock another more than 20 seconds back in 4th, ahead of Robin Moling, who's in 5th place. Axel Laflamme's early stop has got him back to 6th again, in front of Ben Boorman, who we just see holding off Oliver Day here on screen. John Ian, the 2-litre AM leader. The under 2-litre leader, by the way, is Ben Boorman. The 2-litre AM leader is John Ian, who's in 9th overall. Gilles Lalonde, who's already made a stop, of course, for damage repairs is in 10th place. See whether he can make it to the end on 3 stops or whether he even has to make 4. You would expect he should be able to get that to the end with 3, and in fact he's coming in now, so maybe not actually. Maybe he will be making 4 stops today. Yeah, well, no, sorry, he will be making probably 3 stops, but anyway. Now yellow in sector 1, and seems to have been cleared quite quickly. Wondering whether these two are going to arrive on the scene of that yellow very quickly. They're not going to. Oliver Day roars past Ben Borman, who's clearly fuel saving on the straight there. And so Day is able to easily get past, but Borman's making up for it in the corners, which is pretty impressive to watch. Look at that, as he turns underneath Day there, tries to anyway. My goodness. Able to stay in front. Outside the top 10 here, well, JC Tami's just got into the top 10. Jerry Chen actually just getting past Tami there. And we ride aboard with Chen, recently into the top 10. Anna Smith then 12th behind these guys. Brian Hall right behind him. Ethan Funk in 14th place is next instead of George Angelidis. Then it will be Carl Stroll and Vinicius Gonçalves as Gilles Lalonde drops down the field with that pit stop. And Ross Smith as well, still in the race. I think had a disconnection earlier. Maximilian Petrovsky out with that brake failure earlier on today. But we go with John Ian, who's just in behind Ben Borman and Axel Laflamme. 3 different drivers in 3 classes racing one another nose to tail here. Whoa, big slide on the way into the final turn there from Ian. Just had to correct that before getting through the corner. Onto the front straight, through the other side. To the back straight again for Ian. He's following on these guys really. Oliver Day out front of this group is getting away from Borman really, who will be keeping an eye on his fuel more than anything else. Such as the different strategies that are ongoing here. We should see the next window for pits open in only 7 laps. It feels like the previous ones have only just finished, but it's going to be the way of this race. Plenty of stops throughout, that's for sure. So class leaders over the Eduardo Beninca, who's obviously leading the overall race and therefore the 2 litre class. The 2 litre round class being led by John Ian, who we're currently on board with. The under 2 litre class overall being led by Ben Borman, who you can see just in front of us here. There's Beninca we're on board with, and Carl Stroll is the only driver from the under 2 litre round class here today. He's still running in 16th position. Ross Smith's stop, by the way, has been a little bit on the long side. Is he coming again, is he? I'm not sure actually. Maybe Gilles Lalonde's stop was pretty short because he definitely has been in. Pretty much straight back out again though. I was speaking to Traffic a couple of moments ago that did say that one of the stops may well be significantly shorter than the other one, so maybe there's some of that coming into play at the moment as well. Just over 11 seconds now for Beninca. Gutierrez is closing, but there's trouble behind him. Slide through the chute, but it's down at the toe of the boot where Dan Hurlock has had trouble here. Oh, he's had a wheel failure. His wheels have locked up. His steering is locked to the left. Oh, he's still there as well. Look at the tyre tracks there. Oh, he's got back going again. Remarkable. Herlock has managed to reset everything here in sim, in the race, and he's back underway again. That is quite something. Wow, Dan Herlock, he's driving tentatively, as you can see at the moment, tentatively towards the heel of the boot here, and he'll continue on tentatively as well, I thought. But what a fantastic bit of technological fiddling that was from Dan Herlock. Rectify a completely locked up setup there and get back going again straight away. Absolutely extraordinary. Wow, that was quite something. Herlock down to 9th though. Lots of drivers promoted positions there. Everybody who was 4th to 8th or given a place, including these two class leaders of their individual classes. And here comes Johnny in on the outside of Ben Bowman. As I mentioned earlier on, we'll be fuel saving quite a lot here, and though therefore the pass will not be too difficult coming down in towards the loop. Be careful just to call it the loop, because it's not the outer loop. There was no inner loop back then. The inner loop introduced in 1992 after the sad death of J.D. McDuffie in a crash into the loop. It used to be taken on at full speed in the NASCAR Winston Cup Series race at Watkins Glen. Sadly, 1991 that crash took place. With Axel Laflamme here coming out of the loop and in towards the chute now. Putting the pressure onto it, Robin Moling here. Another one of the drivers here, Axel Laflamme, who's had a bit of an up and down day so far. Seems to be back on the up again. Oh, after a late stop, look at that. That was quite a speed difference there as they were shifting gears coming out of the toe to the heel of the boot, and Flam's going to get past. That was quite dangerous there. And the speed that they, or at least they don't lose speed so much as they sort of stop accelerating, really. Goodness me, the Flam had to have good reactions there to weave out of the way of that one. And we might have had trouble here. See a couple of DNFs now. There seems to have been a disconnection for a couple of these drivers. Jerry Chen, George Angelidis and Ross Smith seem to have gone. Half of the 2 litre AM category seems to have gone here, and that's included our broadcast here. Apologies for this. We'll get back into the session as quickly as we can, as long as it is still ongoing, of course. We believe that it is. And we'll get back as soon as we possibly can to the race. I can still see timing of the race at the moment. Eduardo Beninca is still leading by 9.5 seconds. I can unfortunately tell you that Jerry Chen, George Angelidis and Ross Smith all seem to have disconnected here en masse. Smith, who's helping us with our broadcast here tonight, therefore is also our broadcast out of whack. Ross is getting back into the session now. It should still be, he says, still be running as normal. It looks like it is. It looks like everybody else is still racing here at the moment, which is good to see. On lap 28, Beninca, we're about to cross the halfway mark of this race. And in the new order, he is leading by just under 10 seconds from Johnny Gutierrez. Boucher de Bruin next in line. Then a big gap back to Axel Flammy. That's now got past Robin Moling, as we saw. Oliver Day in 6th. Then Johnny in the 2-litre AM category. Only just in front of Dan Hurlock. Then Ben Bowman, who's just been passed by Hurlock. See fuel saving in the under 2-litre category. JT Tommy rounds out the top 10, 19 seconds behind Bowman. Brian Hall, the 2-litre AM category driver, 11th, ahead of Ethan Funk. Alan Smith, Carl Stroll, Vinicius Gonçalves, and Jules Lalonde of the drivers who are still running. Seen that there's now 4 DNFs potentially, as if none of those guys can get back in. So that would be a shame, but it's remarkable that they're all 2-litre AM category drivers, all 4 of them. So we have been able to get back into the session, and we are going to get back to it as soon as we can. I'm told that's not far away. And we'll rejoin them just in time for half distance here. Lap 29, they're just on right now. So those next pit stops actually not that far away if you're thinking about a 3-stop race today. So you can't be thinking about a 2-stop race if you're pitting soon. You've got to be going on for maybe another 10 laps from here, but there definitely are guys who are doing it. So we are back into the session. Thanks to Ross Smith, of course, for helping us out here tonight and getting us back into the race again, where we are about to complete lap 29 here. So the order on the left-hand side. As far as battles are concerned at the moment, not too many ongoing. A little bit of a waiting game before the next part of the race, really. A couple of flashes of yellow flags. Running on board with Gutierrez, showing us that the gap is hovering just under 10 seconds at the moment. Now Ross Smith's back out there on the racetrack again after a second disconnection tonight. George Angelidis is also back out there. Jerry Chen so far has not returned, sadly. Hopefully will do, but so far hasn't. There is Angelidis back again. Look at this quite lively battle on the way down towards the loop now. Just as you think there's no battles ongoing just at the moment, a couple more pop up. Side by side coming out of the loop as well, down into the chute. That's Brian Hall being overtaken by somebody. That's a lapped driver. We're riding on board though with Ethan Funk, who's trying to get past Hall, as Chen also gets back on the racetrack. Thankfully, all three of those drivers taken out in that disconnection are back again, albeit multiple laps down now. Chen 4 laps down, so's Angelidis. Or Smith 11 laps down because he's had 2 disconnections so far. Lost a bit of time trying to get us back on here as well, but thanks to him for that, of course. Back to the battle with Hall. Trying to keep Funk behind in towards the penultimate corner, and he's not going to manage it. Funk through into 12th position, and Hall's ultra fuel save is continuing here, which, as Maximilian Petrovsky commented, might be just going a little bit too slowly almost to try and get the extra laps of fuel out of this one. Might have been better served just pushing on the way he would have gone normally. It's very difficult to prove that's actually the case. As what's gone on here for John Uyen? Where's he gone? And Jerry Chen and Ross Smith have gone again here. They are both having real trouble with their connection at the moment, which is, and Angelidis gone again as well. And we've had the same problem here. So I wonder whether this is a recurring thing happening at the moment. Same 3 drivers who've gone again. Everybody else seems to be fine at the moment. So slightly unusual set of circumstances. I can't say I've ever seen this before. Connection again for those guys here from the race at Watkins Glen tonight. That's Jerry Chen, George Angelidis, Ross Smith all having trouble here. So leaving John Uyen out there in the lead of the class right now, the 2-litre AM class. He's currently the series leader, of course, and his 3 closest rivals, Smith, Chen and Angelidis, all having trouble here, which means that Uyen's really gaining some points on them. Gonsalves next in line, might even move ahead of Angelidis should things go his way, but he's still only 3rd in the class. Now, it seems to be the same 3 people happening twice here for a disconnection. Ross, have you got any word on why that's happening or anything at the moment?
No, it's a really very unusual situation. I'm trying to actually get back in because I'd like to try and score points for the team, if nothing else. But yeah, it seems a handful of people have been kicked out, but the majority of drivers are still on the server. So I'm kind of waiting to hear if there's any kind of response back from George in terms of if there's going to be any action or if he's trying to see what's happening with others. But as of right now, unfortunately for the people watching the stream, my IAP seems to be affected, so we're sort of stuck at the moment.
Yeah, we saw this in the previous one as well. When you not the first time you went, but the more recent one where Jerry Chen and George Angelidis also went during that one as well. It was the 3 of you that time and this time as well. So I'm not sure how that's really possible, or to be honest with you, but it seems to be the 3 of you who've gone twice here, which is very unusual. I was just saying, I can't remember ever seeing that happen to 3 specific drivers twice so quickly like that before. I must admit, I haven't seen that.
Yeah, I don't know how to explain it. I'm going to try and get back in and hope that it doesn't happen again, but maybe 2 times the charm.
Yeah. Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, so sorry about that, folks, but hopefully this is the end of it and we can keep things rolling here.
Yeah, absolutely. We're in the second half of the race now, by the way, and I can still see the timing where Eduardo Blinker has indeed come into the pit lane from the lead, maybe short fielding a little bit in that first stop to try and get ahead. He was ahead of Gutierrez and De Bruyne for a while, but he's now stopped, and that's going to put him right the way down, probably outside the top 10 actually, considering how close the field still is. So Blinker is going to drop away, but it will all change when the others make their stops as well. Gutierrez and De Bruyne only 5.5 seconds apart. They're 45 seconds though in front of Axel Laflamme, who's leading the best of the rest. As Ross has got us back into the race, and again a big thanks to him for his hard work behind the scenes here tonight. Valtteri De Bruyne responds to Blinker's stop pretty much straight away, 1 lap later, by coming into the pit lane at the front as well. So the pit window is very much open for a second time here at Watkins Glen tonight. We're running on board again with looks like Brian Hall. Who we're with here? I don't think it is. Is it? Can't quite tell at the moment. Might be Carl Stroll. No, it is. Sorry, Carl Stroll. He's running behind Alan Smith in 13th position. Smith going a little bit wide there. There goes Robbie Moling up to second place as well, with the stops for Axel Laflamme as well as Valtteri De Bruyne. Here out of the pit lane again for Angelidis, who's back out there. Ross Smith is back out there first of those who disconnected. Jerry Chen is at least back in the server here and waiting to come back out onto the racetrack again. Angelidis and Chen are on the same lap, so they are in a bit of a fight at the moment to try and get out there quickest. Chen has now done that as well, so they're both back in at least. But it's happened to those 3 twice now, and it's put them quite a few laps down at this stage in the race. But lucky it's not happened at a point where they were out of fuel, by the way, as well, because of course if you disconnect then you can't stop or anything, you come back out again as you were. And if you've got no fuel, that's a bit of a disaster. Oh, and it's gone again here. We seem to be having some trouble here tonight, I'm afraid. Chen and Smith have gone this time. And Angelidis again. Yeah, this is very, very unusual. Those 3 really struggling to stay connected at all here tonight to the server. So we'll wait to see what happens here, but they barely made it a lap there. It seems to be arriving sooner and sooner for the 3 of them. That's a real shame for those 3. We'll see whether they can get back out into the race at least, but at the moment that's looking a little bit tricky. And tricky, as I say, for the championship in the 2 litre AM class, because John Huyen is out there still and he's leading. And unfortunately, those 3 who are closest in the championship are all out again, which means that, yeah, they're going to be losing some serious points here. to their big rival. Don't forget, the season is not so old. It's not even halfway through just yet. We've got a bit of a time to wait until the next race in the historics. We've got plenty of modern racing coming before then, but the next historic race is at Spa for a 2.4 hour. And the 15th of August, the start of a double header with Road America the week after. The race in September is at Silverstone for a double header, in October at the Nürburgring Pagusa. Second visit of the season to Daytona in November before a Mosport Brands Hatch double header to end the season on the 12th of December at the Virtual World Sports Car Championship. There's racing all throughout the year here on a Saturday evening or a Saturday afternoon if you're over there in the States, or an early Sunday morning if you're over in Asia. It's a good time slot for almost everybody. Flam seems to have gone this time as well, actually. So we might have 4 disconnections, or maybe that was more actual trouble on the racetrack for La Flam. I'm not 100% sure at the moment. I wait to see what is going to happen here for this race. We're currently on lap 36 with Robin Moling leading. Johnny and Oliver Day both in at the moment. Whole mix of strategies here. Beninka, Gutierrez, De Bruyne have already stopped twice, and Beninka's 16.5 seconds in front of Gutierrez again, who's also a second or so ahead of De Bruyne at the moment. Just see Ross Smith trying to get back into the server at the moment. Not sure how long we're gonna stay in for here, but so we can for a little bit longer. As I say, the race is still ongoing right now at Watkins Glen tonight. Smith has managed to load in again. And there you are. You can see the race once again here. Lap 37 we're on now. Who might be about to become the leader here. The under 2 litre leader anyway. No, he's going to come in. It looks like these guys who were trying to do a 2-stop race earlier maybe are abandoning this now because of just how long it's, how much time you're losing. I mean, Hall seems to still be going for this, and he's back in 8th place. He's really slowed his speed because of all this fuel saving, and it is an awful lot of saving. There's a replay meantime. So I think this is live actually. Oh no, it isn't. It is a replay of a bit of an incident in towards yes, or maybe it was live. I don't know, but that was Alan Smith who had the trouble there. There's Beninka now in second. So the only one in front, JT Tami, who hasn't stopped for a second time yet. Whoa, Gutierrez with a big slide there over the chicane, and this maybe is just turning the way of Beninka this race. It's more than 20 seconds out in front of Gutierrez. or around 20 seconds in front of Gutierrez again. Yeah, maybe it is just turning in his favour. Funk, who is still the under 2 litre leader when behind JT Tommy, I should say. Neither of them have even stopped yet. Tommy more than a minute in front of Funk right now. He's at least in the race and going to be picking up points. He starts today 7 behind JT Tommy, with Matt Wright, who's next in line behind Funk. He'll be certainly second in the standings at the end of this. Will Ethan Funk, he'll be a little bit more comfortable in that second position. How much consolation that is going to be to him, to be honest. With the S's for Valtteri De Bruyn, who's jumping over the curves a little bit there. He was much closer to Gutierrez, just out the pit lane, by the way. Gap now 2 seconds, though. And you can see now why so many have abandoned the two-stop strategy here, because JT Tommy has been run down by Eduardo Belinca now. The gap just over 2 seconds, and there's still there's effectively a stop to come from everybody if Tommy is going to be making this a two-stop race, and so it's just falling away from him a little bit now. Oliver Day is in 11th again here, just in front of Vinicius Gonçalves, but only just in front of the 2 litre AM driver, because Gonçalves hasn't made his second pit stop of the day just yet. So how close can Gutierrez get to Belinca here in this stint? I do feel like still that he has some time to gain in the final pit stop, to be honest, which is going to get him that little bit closer again. But it's a big gap, and it's only been going the wrong way for Gutierrez, or at the very least staying where it is for Gutierrez for 20 odd laps now. Here's Belinca, we're riding on board with, just closing in for the race lead now. And JT Tommy. Two laps to go at the end of this one. We're pretty much at 2/3 distance here, about 200 kilometres more than completed here so far. A race of just over 300. Valtteri De Bruyn getting very out wide and into the wall. Off with the rear wing. One of the big contenders. Valtteri De Bruyn off the road and into the wall. Now he's no longer anywhere near Johnny Gutierrez as he was earlier. And that's a big moment in this race as well, just as Belinca also makes that pass for the lead with 22 laps to go. This is the replay again of De Bruyn's incident. It's a big hit on the outside of the loop there. Wow. It's a big moment in this race for the for some of the top contenders here. Pretty sustained yellow flagging. Sector 2 here as well, and it's Gonçalves who's gone also for a spin. I think that's the loop again, isn't it? It is. This is Gonçalves this time with the trouble. Here comes JT Tami now. 40 laps into this race. Still got 21 to go though, and that means it's going to be a long way to home as he speeds into pit lane, of course. No pit speed limit back in the day in 1981, so just fly straight through into the pit box, and thankfully in the sim world it's still safe to do that, of course. Enquiries' lead now exploding to 27 seconds nearly. Last time round gained nearly 2 seconds on Gutierrez, so I'm not sure what he's doing here. He slowed down significantly on this most recent lap, which is a little bit concerning for the chasing Gutierrez. Carl Stroll hit on screen, the under 2 litre AM category. The only driver in this class here today. On a reap. Oh, and he's locked it all up, coming down into the heel of the boot and gone straight on into the wall down there. That could be a long stop for him coming up as well. Dear oh dear. Also Wouter de Bruyn, who's been in after repairs, coming back out again. Trying to go around the outside. That's the incident again, indeed. I'm sorry for the repeat replays, but thought he'd been off again. Thankfully not. Ben Boorman, the leader of the under 2 litre category, and has been slowly working his way through the overall field now. And he's the first driver a lap down, 4th place, made 2 stops. Just a little bit slower than the 2 litre category. And he's got Dan Hurlock chasing him, closing on him at the moment. You can see here Gutierrez still chasing hard. Maybe some of this traffic has is what's got to do with this ballooning gap. It's now back to sort of 22, 23 seconds, which is a bit better than it was before. Dan Hurlock, who has now caught Borman. It didn't look like it was going to take too long. So these two in different categories, different car categories as it were, and so here comes Hurlock. Surely be making that pass very, very soon as we get towards the final quarter of this race. Where can he make this pass? Is it going to be really disputed by Ben Burman? They're in different categories. The point system in this series means that you don't... That's behind you. You only score points on a class basis here. So on board with Vinicius Gonçalves down in 14th place at the moment. That just moves up to 13th. Getting past Carl Sturl, the 2-litre AM driver here today. Well, with Alan Smith now fighting for 11th position behind Brian Hall. Has now made 2 pit stops as Hall to 11th position here. Really popping out right in front of them as well. Into the S's, dangerous as they come through the chicane itself. Lalonde, who's had that trouble earlier on, but also moving up a place at the expense of Carl Stroll here. Seems to be moving down the field for whatever reason. There's Hurlock now ahead of Ben Burman for 4th place. Oliver Day not too far behind. See, Hurlock and Day's livery is very, very similar. Actually on the same team as far as scoring points are concerned in this series. Oliver Day doesn't belong to a team. Hurlock part of the Smile Power Racing BMW team. And with Mike Bell. Hurlock's been doing the heavy lifting there really, with Bell out for much of the season. Well, Borman's going to get past here by Day, it looks like. We've just cut away for Lalonde again. He's got past Gonçalves now as well. 2 positions in space of just a couple of laps for him. Again, it's Eduardo Beninca over 20 seconds in the lead, but his final pit stop is coming up and it's going to be very, very telling. is his final stop going to be much longer than Gutierrez and maybe allow the Pulsar back into the fray for a potential race victory at the end here tonight? Well, he goes to the end of another lap here, 16 to go for Beninket. Does seem to be quicker than Gutierrez at the moment, which is a bit of a surprise really, given what we saw in the very early stages of this race today. Alan Smith, Brian Hall. And Smith able to get in front here into 11th. And to Brian Hall, who I'm not entirely sure what the strategy is right now. So replay for Ross Smith, sadly. He's had a lot of trouble tonight, but the fact he's still going means that there's probably a lot of positions on the table for him soon. Through turn 9, just has a bit of a spin, and as he tries to get back going again, has a little bit of a spin as well. Hopefully he's able to get back going. Now every lap Beninket passes the pit lane here, we wonder when is this final stop going to be? And it's now. 15 laps to go, and Eduardo Beninket, the race leader, is in for the final time, making sure to stay to the right hand side of that white line there, because there are rules about that, but not the pit lane speed back in the day. So there you are. It's difficult a pit entry to get onto those days as it is now, with the height line you have to take through that abnormally height line you have to take through the final corner. Brian Hall definitely seems to have picked up his pace here. Early on he was going extremely slowly to try and save the fuel required for a two-stop race. He seems to have given up on that, and that seems to me a good idea. It's one of those days where fuel saving just a little bit too much. I mean, the length of the stops means it's so encouraging to do something left field in strategy, but not quite today. Day should get past Eduardo Beninket here, who's made that pit stop, although it does depend really on who's on foot. Dan Hurlock not far behind Oliver Day here. That's why we're following these two at the moment. One of the closer battles for 4th place in the race. Comes Brian Hall coming back again at Smith. And just as we cut away for a replay of Ross Smith, the other one. Turn 9 causing trouble again. Oh, it's indeed a replay of the replay. But yeah, Brian Hall did get past Alan Smith there for 11th place. A nice pass. Good to see him starting to use some of his speed, really, rather than fuel saving, although everyone on board with Alan Smith trying to come straight back again. Having said that, there's somebody in between them. Trying to get to the outside for the final turn here, this driver. Have to go up and under, steady on out the final turn. Can't get it done. Frustrating for Smith as anyone else, because he can't actually get back to Hall and try and make a pass on him quite as easily. Can Smith actually make the pass on the driver in the way? We'll find out. So we see Oliver Day and Dan Hurlock again. Well, big slide for Hurlock coming out of the Essex chicane there. And he caught it, but the gap's increasing there between those two right now. And as I suspected, and there's Beninka right behind them. As I suspected, he would have to stop quite a lot earlier than the others for the final time, and that means his final stop's going to be longer than the others, and obviously Day and Hurlock will not be able to stay in front of him, but some of the others might. Now, Shoes has had trouble already today, and into the heel of the boot. He locks up like Carl Stewart did, and avoids heavier contact with the wall, but he does make a bit of contact. He has to reverse his way out of that one. So Beninka's past Hurlock. He's got to be efficient here, as Beninka, and he has been so far, as John Ian has an engine blown here. Class leader of the 2-litre AM category is gone. The category that has had such drama today has seen another twist right at the very end. And it's John Ian who has blown his engine. We'll hand over the lead to Brian Hall. He's barely been running at his speed for any of today, and yet somehow, even though he hasn't been running at his optimal speed and his pit strategy hasn't worked, somehow, despite those two things, he's going to come through and win this race anyway. Unbelievable, really. As Hurlock gets past Beninka. By the way, there is Brian Hall just in front of Alan Smith here, who we ride on board with, and he's back in front again for the first time. Here's the pass for Hurlock. Bit wide and a slide from Beninka there through the grass. Allows Beninka right through on the outside line. Thanks very much. Beninka has been able to get straight back through again as Robin Moling is into the pit lane. That gives a little bit of an idea as to where Gutierrez might end up. I think, well, if Moling's in front of Beninka, then Gutierrez definitely will be. I suppose that's the only idea we can really glean from it. It's hard to... Moling's behind anyway, it's hard to really drawn too much because we just don't know what the time gaps are going to be and so on. The stops are likely to be in their length. So, Moling is still in the pit lane as Beninka goes past. And 1 lap later, with 10 laps to go, is into the pit lane. Is he going to be anywhere close to Eduardo Beninka here or not? Could have a real race on for the lead here in the final laps at Watkins Glen tonight. Certainly hope so. As we have a look at Beninka here. Is this just the trouble he had with Herlock earlier? Sliding a bit wide. That's Day in front of him going off, and this is Beninka making a pass on Oliver Day, who's had similar sort of trouble coming through turn 3 there. So Beninka gets a bit fortunate on that, and he has not really been slowed down at all by any traffic, which is very, very good news for him indeed. This is the fight for 10th place. Brian Hall, 10th in front of Alan Smith, the new leader. Don't forget the 2 litre AM category, Brian Hall. Remarkable story for him. We look like we're going to be able to see him come across the line later on as a race winner in his class, remarkably. This is the rejoin, though, for Johnny Gutierrez. Eduardo Beninka has gotten through on Oliver Day and Dan Herlock. There was no real benefit to it, but it needed to be done. He at least didn't get caught behind them in traffic. As he goes past the pit lane, Gutierrez is not yet out there. Beninka is leading this race, and it looks like he's going to be leading it by some way as well over Gutierrez and Molly. He's just played this strategy much better. Yes, their final stops were shorter, certainly in the case of Gutierrez, who's only 9 seconds behind. Nevertheless, Beninka has played this perfectly by shortening his first stop, getting out of traffic, and he has not looked back since then. He's not conceded the lead, apart from during a pit stop cycle, since that moment. A few 50, well, not 50 laps ago, 40 laps ago when they came in for the first time, 35 even, somewhere around there. And ever since then he's not given up the lead again. Need to stop Owen Day and Herlock here haven't been in for a third time yet. Sure, they've got to at some point. Who knows in this race? Full of surprises. Alan Smith has got past Brian Hall again here for a top 10 position. Smith, one of the under 2 litre drivers, getting past the 2 litre AM driver of Brian Hall. Smith not quite on the podium, he's 4th in that class. Making most of the shoot there as he comes out of the corner, as we again go on board with Herlock fighting the car as well, coming up the hill there after the S's. Oliver Day in second place, next in line. Yeah, who is going to prevail in the fight between these two? It's the ones remaining. Laps traffic as well here. There's only 8 left on the lead lap now, and that's with some people not having stopped yet, and Ross Smith, who was staying out of the way. Oh no, no, it can't have been. He's in the pit lane. Not his teammate. Vinicius Gonçalves. Yeah, traffic's a real factor here. I say only 8 on the lead lap, and that's without the stops that we're about to see for some of these guys, like JT Tami, who's not been in yet, Ben Borman, as well as these two who are on your screen at the moment fighting for second position. Now, Day's coming in this time. Erlock's not so close, so as that slows him down through the final turn, which is very helpful. But they are going to be split apart now as they make their final stops of the day. Here comes Gilles Lalonde. I think this is a replay of the replay earlier. Indeed it is. They made a bit more contact with the wall than I first thought, actually. Had a troubled day, Lalonde, ever since he went airborne coming out of the S's chicane earlier. Only 1 lap down, to be fair to him. 12th place right now, though he does maybe have a stop left because of all the damage repair and so on he would have needed earlier. 4 retirements so far from this race. The most recent of them we saw with the engine failure to John Ian, who's not even going to drop all the way to the back behind like Seth Evangelidis and Ross Smith. They don't actually have enough time to get past him, but Axel Laflamme already out this race as well, the only of the 2 litre drivers who's not in the AM class 2 litre category. The others being Jerry Chen and Maximilian Petrovsky. Chen after 3 disconnections in a very short space of time. Maximilian Petrovsky with a brake failure in the early stages of this race. Eight to go at the line for Benenka as he crosses the line here. Gutierrez nearly 9 seconds behind him. That is an equation you'd fancy as the race leader in that scenario there. We go back to Borman, who's made his final pit stop as well. One way in front of Ethan Funk, and JT Tami is still yet to stop for the final time as well in the under 2 litre category. An under 2 litre driver in the top 5 at the moment, but that will come to an end for Tami very, very soon. Second and a half behind Oliver Day here, while we're following him. It's probably exactly where Herlock is going to end up being. Over the start-finish line, and still Herlock is not making that final stop yet. You see why some were encouraged to try and do the fuel-saving strategy today. It's not a million miles away. It's probably 2 laps of saving a stint, which it is quite a lot realistically, but it seems reachable, which will maybe frustrate these drivers a bit as Rodder Beninka here continues on leading. Herlock is now into the pit lane, by the way, and Beninka has extended his lead further over Gutierrez, who seems to maybe have trouble in the early part of this lap. He's now more than 12 seconds behind Eduardo Beninka leading this race. Six to go at the line. Herlock is still in the pit lane. Oliver Day hasn't come past him yet and is still 30 seconds behind him. He's still 30 seconds away from doing that, so well, just a moment to hold on for that. Still pushing hard, the race leader. See him here. Six laps to go as he sees a yellow flag in the middle sector. What about the battles behind him for those other podium places? Day is a long way behind Herlock. Goodness me. 30 seconds is the gap. For some reason, Oliver Day has had a long stop here and it's put him behind Wouter de Bruin as well. Robin Molling, though, is actually in that podium place. He made that stop earlier, don't forget. So Herlock's not even in the podium place himself, but Day is nowhere near Herlock. Really should be. There's Gilles Lalonde on the back of Brian Hall here for 11th. He's come through the field nicely, as I've said, Lalonde, and here's his latest pass, moving into 11th. As long as he can get to the end without stopping again, he'll move into 9th overall, which would be a 7th place finish in the 2 litre category. And just 2 of the Anfield. See JT Tummy is leading, but also Ben Borman as well, who he's unlikely to get to. And Funk is a minute 17 behind the driver in front of him in the field. Just 5 laps remaining now for Eduardo Beninka, and the gap is holding at 12 seconds. It's been a remarkable drive from him. Anonymous through the first stint, able to strategise his way to the front and stay there until the end, it looks like. It's Hall just in front. Beninka slides and saves it. As much as it looks comfortable right now, he cannot afford a big accident like that. Quite close. The gap just fluctuated to there for a moment. You wonder whether the had run onto the back straight had anything to do with that for Beninka, but it might not matter. As I said earlier, I'll just run through where some of the points may be at the end of this race. Nicholas Kirsten, the 2 litre Group 5 leader, will be overtaken by a lot of people here today. First non-show of the season. Beninka will take over, therefore, the championship lead in front of probably Dan Hurlock and then Gutierrez, as we see a replay here of Vinicius Gonçalves. Probably Beninka ahead of Hurlock, then Gutierrez, the top 3. Sandro Smeraldi also not here today, so Wouter de Brome will be into the top 5. And Oliver Day might... no, actually Oliver Day won't be quite, but will be close. Gonçalves having more trouble here. Into the chute this time. In the 2 litre AM category, John Ian was leading for so long, but is no longer, let's see the race leader hit. The race winner is going to be JT Tammy, who at the moment is not in the category. That's not JT Tammy the leader. Brian Hall, obviously the leader there. He's down in 9th. He's only been at 1 race so far this season at Mugello. Feature in the championship. We'll see how the points actually pan out here, because the DNFs won't count towards the score. Anyway, be a 0, so Ross Smith might still be the championship leader, or might gain, I should say, the championship leader at the end of this. I'm not entirely sure. I have to see on that one. Under 2 litre category, that is the one where JT Tammy is leading, and of course he's leading the championship as well. He's only not won 1 race this season, and that was at Sebring earlier on. So his winning streak is going to continue, and his championship lead will extend maybe even towards 10 points now, which is quite large. And not many of the under 2 litre AM drivers here today. Only Carl Struhl, who's just retired, it seems. Just seeing a DNF for him. Even if he was here, he'd only tie up the championship lead with John Mayer, who is not here but is leading the championship. There's only 3 finishes to his name so far this season, so that's quite impressive. Yeah, that's how we'll stand in the championship coming into the next round of this championship, which will be at Spa, a 2.4 hour race on the 15th of August. A fair way to go until we get there. A few weeks. That's the start of a double header, because we'll be also racing for 125 miles at Road America the week after. There is Modern Series racing before then as well. At Road America. Next race. So we'll bring that to you live as normal as well. Vinicius Gonçalves on the screen again, 13th place. Might be one of the closest battles on the field, but it is not too close for it, really. Ethan Funk is into the pit lane again here, dropping down behind Ben Borman as a result, maybe further. Whoa. There's Gonçalves spin again on replay. So lap 60. Just 2 to go, and Gutierrez is running out of laps here. In any case, he's losing time. Last time round he did a 54.8. 2.3 seconds slower than Beninka, who's been able to keep a very solid pace throughout this and keep it very, very close to his absolute best. And Gutierrez hasn't been able to do that, really, despite leading early on. Indeed, for the first stint in this race entirely, Gutierrez, but he's not leading anymore, and the gap is only growing. So just remember, as I just mentioned, before, Eduardo Beninca is indeed going to take the championship lead with this as well. Hasn't won since Daytona, which took place on the 3rd of January, the 2.4 hour race there, very early season race. And through the final corner, it's the final lap here from Watkins Glen tonight in the Virtual World Sports Car Championship 1981. It is Eduardo Beninca leading the way, and the gap increasing with every lap. Round, another 1.7 seconds put into his rival. The driver on board with at the moment is putting in the best time, Oliver Day, running down JT Tami last time round to the tune of 5.6 seconds. It's a meaningless battle really, they're in different classes, but it would recover a top 5 overall for Oliver Day if he could get this pass done here. Well, he's into the final sector, Eduardo Beninca. Well, these two are going to just about scrape on the lead lap here. They're about 90 seconds behind Beninca, by the way. So it's only about 20-25 seconds away from lapping them here, but these two are just about going to survive. The race leader is going to come into the final turns in a second and take a wonderful race victory here. Strategizing his way to the front, Eduardo Beninca, as JT Tami slows down on the front straight, and Oliver Day gets his top 5 overall. There he makes the pass in towards turn number 1 very nicely. Beninca is going to be coming through very shortly and taking the checkered flag. You can see it there on your screen. Eduardo Beninca takes his second win of the season, the first since January, and with it he takes the championship lead as well. He's held off Johnny Gutierrez to the tune of 15 odd seconds at the end there. A very impressive drive indeed. Further down, we are going to see the race victory for Brian Hall next. The 2-litre AM class has been quite dramatic today. John Hume with an engine failure, George Angelidis, Ross Smith and Jerry Chen all with 3 disconnections, and Chen not getting back onto the racetrack at all after that. Maximilian Petrovsky having his brakes blow up because of the qualifying brake blanking that he left on by mistake. As Robin Molin comes over the line there for a podium overall, it's going to be Brian Hall who comes across the line in 11th place and takes the category there for 2-litre AM class drivers. And in the under 2-litre category, JT Tami is going to get home here maybe. I mean, Ben Borman is really running him down here. 3.5 seconds gain last time round. The gap's 2.5 now. Wonder whether Tami has just misjudged this slightly. We'll try and get it on your screen in a second, but see, we don't have quite control over the cameras as we'd like, obviously. But Borman is really running him down here. It's 1.5 seconds. They're coming into the final sector at the moment. Because these two are running so closely, the system, I think, thinks these two are in a fight or something. But it's less than a second between Tami and Borman. It will be quite a turnaround here if Borman were to get through. Tami's going to lead the championship no matter which way this goes. But can Borman get through? They're going to cross the line pretty much nose to tail. Less than a second between them. There we see it, just as they cross the line typically. Tami leads and wins this race. He leads the championship as well. And there's Brian Hall, who is in the pit lane after winning that race. So there we go. What a fantastic race here at Watkins Glen tonight. Let's bring straight away the race winner, shall we? Eduardo Beninca, who is able to join us now. Eduardo, welcome in. Congratulations on a race victory here tonight. Tell us about that race in terms of your first stint into the second one. It's the first stint where you weren't leading the race, you were losing a few seconds to Johnny Gutierrez, and then as you got through those first pit stops into the second stint of the race, you were able to get in front and lead this race right to the very end. Just tell us about those pit stops and your strategy for tonight.
Good evening, Ewan, Ross. So we had a long break this time, and we are coming back now. I went to the race with low expectations. I didn't know what to expect, but seems that the Ferrari was good in this track, good pace. So in the beginning, I felt Johnny was faster than me. So I decided to take smaller stops in the beginning, put less fuel, and try to save a bit on the tires and see what is going to happen in the end. And I think the strategy pay off. I didn't change all the tires too. That's another thing to consider, and probably help in the end of the race.
Yeah, absolutely. It's your first win since Daytona earlier on this season, which means maybe with the absence of Nicholas Kirsten and Dan Hurlock finishing behind you, I think you'll be the championship leader, but it will certainly be very close. Anyway, you'll be there or thereabouts. Tell us about how this sort of first half of the season has gone for you, and just how hopeful you are that you can try to contend for the championship this season in the overall class.
Yeah, I think Nicholas had a high in the last races and a good sequence, and Daniel always is a strong competition for me. I know that it's very hard to compete with them. I try my best. So I had a lot of problems in the last race, accidents, unexpected things. But honestly, I don't put not putting a lot of pressure on me. I'm focused more on the team championships with my teammate Alessandro, which could not participate today. Yeah, that's it.
I mean, despite the fact your teammate is not here today, neither of your closest rivals were here today in the other team, so you will still be leading that championship as well here at the end of today. Congratulations, Eduardo, on the win, and thanks for chatting to us at the end as well.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for the broadcast organization. Everything was fine, and let's keep going.
Absolutely. Thanks very much. That is the overall race winner here tonight, Eduardo Beninca, joining us at the end there, winning overall, and of course in the 2-litre class. In the 2-litre AM class today, it was a great race for Brian Hall, who is able to, if I just drag him in, able to join us now. Brian, welcome in. Congratulations on the 2-litre AM victory here tonight. I mean, what a topsy-turvy race that was for you. First of all, let's talk about your race before everything else happening around you. The strategy that you employed seemed to be a 2-stop initially, and then maybe an abandoned one. What was going on there for you in the race?
No, I was going to try to do 21 laps, 2 stops. I can't call it a race. I call it a management. It's sad to have a car that fast, and you just have to manage it around the track, hit numbers. But that's what we were doing, so it was fun.
And indeed, it's a race victory for you. What was your sort of feelings as all that stuff was happening around you? There was a couple of guys who disconnected on a few occasions. There was John Ian blowing his engine coming into the toe of the boot. I mean, what were you thinking throughout that race as people were falling away beside you?
Hey, I didn't even know. I looked at the very last sector we went out, and I looked and said, oh, I assume these guys are 2s or 1s, and I didn't know. And then I saw John Uyan was up front, so I said, well, he's a lap ahead, but I guess he had to stop again. And I was like, wow, I might be somewhere near the top. I better not screw this up.
Well, yeah, I don't know if you actually drove past him at any point, but his engine blew up in the final 15 or so laps of that race, which put him out as well. So it was all happening around you, I've got to say. This is only your second appearance of the season, Brian. Are we going to be seeing you again later on this year?
Oh, yeah. Not a problem. I'd like to do a public service announcement. I'm battling cancer right now, and I was brought away from racing and had to concentrate on that. But within about a month or two from here now, I'm going to ring a bell and be cancer free. And all the rest of you brethrens out there who might have to go through this, God's with you, and just be blessed.
Well, that's fantastic news to hear, Brian. It's great to hear, and of course, great to see you out there on the racetrack tonight as well, and have you with us. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for chatting to us tonight, and we look forward to seeing you again very soon.
I'll be there. I'm not going anywhere anytime soon, I plan.
Thanks very much. Excellent, Brian Hall, the winner in the 2-litre AM class here tonight as well. The under 2-litre class, JT Tarmy was able to take the victory. Quite a close finish in the end, as it turned out. We can chat to JT now as well. JT, welcome in as well. That was a close finish between yourself and Ben Borman that sort of seemed to come out of nowhere. What were you fighting against there at the end of the race that seemed to really slow you down in the final 5 laps or so?
Stubbornness, really. I didn't have the same pace Ben did when really having a solid race pace. So I tried to cut out an extra stop and only do a 2-stop, and I really needed Eduardo to lap us, or at least lap Ben, for it to work. And it started to dawn on me towards the end that was not going to be the case. So I had to end up saving like an extra liter a lap, and it was close.
Yeah. It was very close in the end, but in the end, it's another race victory, and it's a feeling you're getting accustomed to. With 5 out of 6, rather 6 out of 5 would be very impressive. 5 out of 6, so far this season. I mean, you must have been sort of enjoying the car, enjoying the series so far. How's it been in 2026 so far?
Oh yeah, absolutely. These cars really play to my strengths, and driving a bit conservative and saving fuel. I've been able to mostly stay out of trouble except Sebring, and really capitalize on all the other issues like Ben and Alan have been having. It was great to see them actually have a relatively clean race today, so that made it a bit close. But yeah, these cars are an absolute blast.
Well, congrats on another race victory tonight, JT, although it was closer than maybe you would have hoped for at the very end. Thanks for chatting to us again, and congratulations again.
Yeah, thank you guys. Y'all have a good one.
Thanks so much, JT Tarmy, the race winner in the under 2-litre AM class, and in the under 2-litre class. In the under 2-litre AM class, Carl Struhl was the only one in the field tonight. Didn't actually end up finishing the race, so not sure what's going to happen there, but he's certainly not in there for an interview just at the moment. Ross Smith has jumped back in, and we'll just have a quick word with him before we go here tonight. Good to have you back, Ross. I know that it was a difficult race for you, but I mean, what did you make of what was going on around you there in your class? By the way, in the 2-litre AM class, there was John Uyan's engine blowing. There was the 3 of you disconnecting on 3 occasions simultaneously. It was all happening in your class today.
Yeah, I mean, bizarre things happen, and I guess today was just the day for that to take place. It was a really frustrating run, just because between the strategies that Vinicius and I had worked out, we knew that it would be a fun game of fuel versus some of our competitors. But unfortunately, at least I didn't get to play that. I mean, I think he ended up placing second in the class, if I saw that right. So that'll, if things stay as they are, I don't know how things are going to end up moving around or anything. But if they stay how they are, then that should help us out in the championship team points. So pretty pleased with that. But as far as like everything else going on around me, I certainly saw a number of people going off in places I wasn't quite expecting them to, at the heel, going into the outer loop. I would have expected, quite a bit more calamity going through, like, say, the chicane, or maybe even turn 1 where we're carrying so much speed. But yeah, lots of surprises all around.
Yeah, it was. It certainly was. I mean, there was a little bit early on through the first chicane, the S's chicane, as I began to call it. But yeah, you're right. After that, there really wasn't too much through there. There was a couple of incidents and accidents, but actually it was the sort of technical drama that was really, really made tonight, with some of the disconnections, also with John Ian's engine blowing there right towards the very end. As you say, that championship probably is going to get a bit closer in the teams now between the lot of you. Hard to know who's actually going to be the championship leader, but it might be you, actually, given that well, we'll see what Ian's drop round is going to be, but yeah, we'll find out anyway as we get into the next race. And speaking of the next race, by the way, that will be at Spa for the next round of this championship. 15th of August, 2.4 hours from Spa is the next race on our historic season as we continue through the World Sports Car Championship of 1981. So a tied longest race of the season, of course, with that being 2.4 hours. So make sure you join us for that in 3 weeks' time. Before then, of course, we'll have the latest modern series race. That'll be just the weekend before at Road America for 60 laps, so make sure you join us for that one as well. That will all be live, same time, same place as what we've had here tonight. Big thanks to everyone who's been tuned in over the course of tonight, listening in to the Virtual World Sports Car Championship from 1981 at Watkins Glen here tonight. I've been Ewan O'Leary commentating for you, and until we see you in a few weeks' time at Road America for the Modern Series or at Spa for the Historics, it's goodbye for now.